Welcome everybody to our March Missouri Open Door workshop. Today's topic is everything you've ever wanted to know about artificial intelligence, but were too afraid to ask. My name is Angelina Alpert. I am a program area specialist at the University of Missouri Kansas City Institute for Human Development. And today we will get started with a few announcements, an overview of Missouri No Wrong Door, setting the stage for AI across the domains, and then I'll pass it over to Chris, and he's going to talk to us about artificial intelligence. As we're getting started, just a reminder that these are recorded. They get posted to the Charting the Life course YouTube, but they will also get sent out in a follow-up email as well. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat as they come up, and then Chris will answer them all at the end. So our announcement for today is that the Charting the Life course showcase is having its 10th anniversary this May in Kansas City, Missouri. Registration is open until April 24th, so you still have some time to register. And throughout the showcase, it gives people an opportunity to come together around charting the life course and how they are using it in different settings, both in professional settings and in their individual lives. So a little bit about No Wrong Door. No Wrong Door aims to transform the way people access services in the community. So it supports individuals and caregivers to make decisions on complete and accurate information about their options for anybody seeking long-term services and supports, regardless of their age, income, or disability. We do have a lot of key partners for Missouri No Wrong Door, one of which is Missouri Assistive Technology, who we partner with for this tech series, and also the St. Louis ARC, where Chris is joining us from today. So through Charting the Life course and No Wrong Door, our kind of goal is to integrate services in support systems for people. So every person exists within the context of their family and community, which you could see on the far left circle. But when a person is receiving formal government services, it can sometimes unintentionally exclude them from the family and the community that they would like to be a part of. So we like to see services and supports integrated throughout a person's life. That way they are able to partake in the family and the community of their choosing. So when we talk about integrated services and supports, we are talking about our integrated support star, which has 5 different types of services and supports. The first is personal strengths and assets. Second is relationships. There's also community-based services and supports that anybody in the community would have access to. Technology, which is what we talk about during our tech series, whether that's personal technology, assistive technology, or environmental technology. And then we also have those eligibility specific services and supports that are going to be needs-based, whether it's age, geography, income level. Those are those formal government paid services that we talk about during our benefit series. So to set the stage with AI across the Charting the Life course domains, for anybody unfamiliar with Charting the Life course, it's a framework and set of tools to help you think differently about your vision of a good life, setting high expectations, and integrating multiple types of services and supports. Charting the Life course helps you organize your ideas, visions, and goals, as well as problem solve, navigate, and advocate for supports. And then below that are some of our icons that we use to help differentiate some of our main principles and categories. So one of those sets of icons that you saw there come from our domain taxonomy. So through Charting the Life course, we like to look at everything through a holistic approach. So making sure that you are considering all different domains of life. And so the taxonomy breaks those domains down into subdomains and topics of different things to think about. So as Chris goes throughout his presentation about artificial intelligence, you'll see that he gives examples throughout each of these domains, how it's used for daily life and employment, community living, social and spirituality, healthy living, advocacy and engagement, and safety and security. And with that, I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Chris.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Cool. I got the thumbs up from David. That's all I needed. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and very big thank you for being invited to do this mod series today and talk about artificial intelligence. I do kind of feel like David slightly set me up because this is a very, very, very large topic, and he knows that there is no way I'm going to cover everything that we could possibly talk about this. So the title is kind of just slightly funny in that respect, that we are probably not going to cover everything related to artificial intelligence, but I'm going to try to give you some general ideas of what it is, how it's kind of come to be, even like how we may be thinking that we're not using artificial intelligence when we actually are in certain kind of cases. And then I'm going to give you just some like possibilities of ways that you might be able to use this in the future, or just think about ways that you might be able to use this in the future. I am going to try to talk really fast through a lot of this information so that I can open it up to questions, because I do feel like a lot of good things are going to come from the questions with this group, and it does look like we have a really good group that could ask a bunch of questions. So like Angelina said, please feel free to start dropping questions in the chat as we're going, and I will answer them at the end. But we will also have an opportunity at the end to be able to discuss this. Also, just as kind of a little side note, I do work with the St. Louis ARC. I am the Assistant Director of Assistive Technology. I am in no way really an AI expert. I am just a big nerd and I like these things. So I know a lot of different things about these tools, and hopefully I can give you a little bit of insight on the way that I use them, but also just some ideas of maybe ways that you might be able to use them in the future. Okay. So, I just want to do like quick kind of check-in with everybody. You can give me a thumbs up. You can drop a number one in the chat if you want to. You can turn your camera on and raise your hand. You can give me a nod. But I just want to see, has anybody heard of tools, AI tools like ChatGPT? Give me that, like drop some chats. Yeah, lots of thumbs up. I figured this was going to be something. Yeah, I see some ones, some yeses. So I figured everybody probably at this point has heard of tools like ChatGPT. It has really been the thing that has brought AI onto the scene. We are very, very aware of it now, and it is everywhere. So I just want to see, like, drop a number two or give me a thumbs up or any kind of thing like that. Just let me know, like, have you tried any AI tool like ChatGPT? Like, I want to kind of just see, like, how many people are like using this. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of users. All right. How about who uses it regularly? Like, I want to know, who are my regular users? And it doesn't even have to be ChatGPT, is it? It can be Claude, it can be some kind of AI tool that you use on a regular basis. Okay, I got a thumbs down. I saw that one. That one popped out at me. So not on a regular basis, but we do have quite a few users. Okay, so that's good to know. So we have a bit of a mixed group here of different people who are using AI, but some people who don't really use it regularly. And there's probably lots of good reasons why you might not want to use it regularly. And hopefully we'll discuss that throughout this presentation. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of like throw out there like a few things that are kind of in this AI realm that you may already be using, but you don't consider it AI per se, because maybe we're thinking of AI as just like a text model where we're talking to it as a chat model like ChatGPT. So things like your phone, like the autocorrect features, when you get the little like autocomplete type of features and things like that. Those are things that are usually some kind of AI is going on in the background that is doing a lot of the things to make that happen. Your Face ID that you use to be able to unlock your phone, that is using AI to be able to do a lot of really cool things in the background to be able to map your face and to know that it is you. Nowadays, too, when we have our photos in our little photo album on our phones, it will usually recognize specific people. It will even recognize our pets. It will put those into nice little organized folders for us so that we can find those things really, really fast. That's a form of AI. It could be in your inbox. So that is happening a lot more now. I do know that some people get a little bit concerned about this area, and there are options to be able to turn off AI things in your email. But things like spam filters, cybersecurity things related to your email, those are usually going through an AI system now to filter those things out. Smart replies, so sometimes especially I see it a lot more common in Outlook now, is that you'll open up to respond to an email and it will already start a message for you, and you can press tab and then it will put that whatever it started to suggest on there. That's a form of AI. Netflix and Spotify suggestions. So it's paying attention to what you're looking at and what you're listening to and giving you suggestions based on that. I would say that before, we used to a lot of times refer to this specific area as the algorithm or algorithms, but there's really not much difference between AI and algorithms on how they are working in the background. Um, Things with your commute. So when you get those little pop-ups on your GPS that say, hey, I can save you 10 minutes on this route, that is a form of AI. Your shopping list. So when it says you might also enjoy this, I will personally say I am not a fan of when it tells me what I might enjoy to shop because I don't want it paying attention to what I'm shopping for in the first place. But those are things that AI is doing. Social media, that is a huge area that AI is starting to take over, and it will suggest things, it will pay attention to what you've been looking at, and it all goes through their algorithm that is just now a very complex AI that is figuring a lot of that stuff out for them. Okay. It's also in some things now, and it's becoming a lot more prevalent now, that it is in things that are making some very serious decisions for us as well. This could be banks are using it to approve and deny loans. They're having it go through these filters to be able to filter out a lot of these things really quickly. Insurance companies are doing this to calculate premiums or to deny certain kind of medical things as well. Hospitals have been using this to be able to find things like tumors and stuff like that. Companies have been using it for a lot of job screening and applications and things like that as well. So there is lots of different uses, but it is starting to also become a part of our society where it is in everything, whether we like it or not. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of a beat and just kind of explain a little of how AI learns. And this is one of my favorite examples of being able to explain how it learns. This is a very scaled down version. So we're just going to say like as if we were looking at 10 different pictures of birds. So basically the process of all AI, how it's trained, how it learns all this information is that we'll show it like 10 different pictures of a bird and we'll say, hey, look at these pictures. And it will go, okay, cool. You're telling me these are our birds. I'm going to look at all the different things. And really, what it's doing is it's just breaking it all down into ones and zeros and recognizing, okay, this has a beak. This has feathers. It has wings. It has these two legs. Okay, I'm starting to see some patterns. And that's all it's doing is it's recognizing the patterns. And then what we do is we go, okay, we gave you all these patterns. Here's a bird you've never seen before. And if it is able to correctly identify that bird, we know that the AI has now learned and we're in the right process of being able to teach it. So what happens most times with AI though is we're not doing 10 different birds. We're doing sometimes millions to trillions of different images or different data sources that are being pulled all together and being able to identify these different things. And as we're doing that, we have to be able to correctly say, like, hey, you misidentified that. So there is a lot of human intervention. This is what is typically referred to as training. When you hear people say training a model or training the AI, this is essentially all they're doing is they're just feeding it information. This right here is kind of in particular with images and showing something as a bird. But we've done this also with a lot of our text. So ChatGPT, for example, this is a model that was trained on basically the whole internet, all the text of the internet. And then when they got done training it on a lot of that, they went and they took all the novels and anything that is out of the copyright phase, and they trained it on all that information. So that's how it's able to sound very human like and realistic. It has had so much data that it understands these patterns. Um, and the reason I put the penguin in there is because in this specific use case, the penguin was the problem. It took a really long time for the penguin to get identified as a bird when they were training it as a model. Um, okay, some quick things to remember. So AI doesn't really understand anything. It's just it's a very big library with a lot of information that it's able to put patterns together in recognition. So to AI, that bird, it's just a collection of numbers. It's just code kind of in the background. Doesn't really have the concept of knowing what a bird is necessarily. The training, it can require massive amounts of data. So we're talking about thousands to millions of examples. And in those examples, we also have those human corrections happening throughout that process when things get wrong. Now we're starting to kind of get into an age, though, that we're starting to notice other issues kind of coming up, which I will talk about briefly. Most AI that we have nowadays, it's usually built for a specific task. ChatGPT and some of these other things that we're seeing, they have multiple tasks, like kind of different AIs that are just combined together to be able to serve a wider audience. But really, it started out as just a text type of model, and then they started adding in images and those kind of capabilities, and then they started adding in video features, and then it became a lot more robust. But typically, it is really just going to be one thing that it is really good at and it's trained on specifically. So it's really, really versatile, but it's not truly intelligent. So why is it all of a sudden everywhere? Why are we talking about it? Why am I even giving a presentation and having the honor to be able to talk to you about this kind of stuff? Well, one, computers are crazy fast now. We all have heard this kind of analogy that we have more power in our pocket on a phone than we had when we landed a rocket on the moon. It is crazy, crazy how much more we've come on advancements with computer capabilities. And this is even capabilities of home computer systems. So home computer systems can even now run AI models for people. And that is what is needed. This is very, very complex. Like I said, it's lots and lots of data. It needs to be able to do these functions really, really quickly. And before we didn't have those capabilities. Now we do. Another thing is we gave it a bunch of data. So we started allowing it access to look at all these photos, to read comments, to scour social media, to be able to figure out how humans communicate with each other and what things look like, what our world is. So we just started feeding it a bunch of data. Once it started getting a bunch of data, it started becoming a lot more useful. It actually started becoming a tool that made a little bit more sense and it had a lot more behind it. So it was able to actually give us more accurate answers. The other big reason, and this is probably the main reason why it's huge, is because in November of 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT. Once they released ChatGPT and they made it into a very simple interface that required no coding, no special knowledge, it immediately became very, very accessible for the majority of people. Within 5 days, it reached 1 million users. That's how popular it was. It was very, very quick. It caught on like fire, and here we are today still talking about it. And there are so many different models now that have come out that mirror this. But it really, that is what changed the game, essentially, is ChatGPT. Open this up for a lot more people to access. So What can it do? Well, you got like these large language model AIs, and they can understand and respond to human language. So they're really, really good at understanding communication. We've actually had it around for a while. It's just it hasn't been as advanced as it is. And now we're seeing a lot more updates to these systems. But all our smart home assistants, those are essentially the same kind of thing as a language AI. It is able to understand communication. It is able to understand the words that we say. It can decipher that. It can understand what its commands are based off of that. And it is not that we have to have these pre-programmed commands that we are telling it. We can just speak naturally as if we were talking to a person, and it can understand that. ChatGPT opened the door and made that way, 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 way more advanced. Other things you have are like generative AIs. So yeah, it can like create new text for us. So really ChatGPT, that's what this is. Claude is kind of an example of that. But then you also have other ones that they can create images, they can create video, which I don't know if there's any Sora fans out there, but just so you know, I don't know if you heard the news, but Sora is going away. So if you liked Sora, you might want to start saying goodbye to it. But you also have like Midjourney, Nano Banana. These are kind of like image generators. They can do a lot of really cool things, but they are very specific. So when you have ChatGPT, yeah, it can do images for you and it can do these other things, but really, ChatGPT is the text model. DALL-E is their image model, and they just combine those two things together to make it easier for the user to be able to use that interface. So some models have a very broad ability to do generative AI. Some are very, very laser focused and can only do this one thing really, really well. Another area is computer vision. So recognizing images, faces, and objects. Like I said before, Face ID is one, but security cameras are starting to have this and included. I mean, I use Blink, and now my Blink will tell me whether it is a person walking by, whether it is an animal walking by. It is able to identify those kind of things. Security cameras can also kind of be able to identify things that maybe seem a little bit out of the norm in certain situations, depending on what they're used for. It's also used for autonomous vehicles. So vehicles that are now being able to navigate themselves. One of my favorite examples actually of this, and I'm sure I'm not alone. And if you want to give a little like what's up or thumbs up in the chat, you can. But those little robots in the grocery store that everybody loves that sometimes might like slightly run into you, that is the same kind of thing. Is it's just an autonomous type of vehicle, but on a very, very small scale. And those are using a lot of AI too, because they are doing inventory. They're checking the inventory of the shelves and being able to scan and see what is out of stock. So that's a pretty complex system. You also have speech recognition. So we've had this around for a while, but it is expanded so much more now that AI is starting to explode. So like voice to text and live captions and Zoom, just having live captions for conversations like FaceTime and different kind of things. That has, I mean, in the past few years, I have seen that get so much better. And I am really, really happy to see these kind of advancements happening with the AI realm. Okay, so I'm going to talk really briefly about the black box problem. This is something that it's it's a little bit complex, but I did want to explain it because sometimes when I talk to people about AI, there's a lot of aversion or there's fear kind of behind it. And, I do understand that we have a little bit of a bias going on when it comes to AI because we learned from the Terminator movies and we think that everything's going to turn into this kind of stuff. And then when you look at the black box problem, it kind of is a little bit of an interesting, curious thing that's going on because we truly do not understand how this AI works once we train it. And that's what the black box problem is that we can say like, hey, you gave us this answer, here's the output. How did you get to that answer? And AI cannot explain it to us. It cannot go through the thread of how it got to that response, especially after it's been trained on millions and millions of pieces of data. it's unable to get to that thread for us. And this is even the people that are designing it, engineering the AI, cannot explain this. They have no idea why it does this. It's even gotten to the point now where the Claude Opus 4.6, when they ask it some of the questions that are kind of this intelligent gauge, it can, I think it's giving like a 30% response saying that it is not sure if it's actually conscious or not at this point. And it's just because it can't tell you what is going on internally with all of its system, and how much data has been filled. So one example that kind of brought this to light, and it's a real world example that they discovered with training AI models, and it is part of the problem that is starting to grow because as we scale up, these problems start to get a lot bigger. But this example was when they're training a bunch of animals and doing these models, for some reason, the AI kept on calling certain dogs wolves, and they could not figure out why the AI kept referring to these dogs as wolves. So then, when researchers started really digging in and trying to find the root cause of this, they started to notice that it was when there was snow in the background that this comparison was happening. And what had happened is, as the AI was trained, all the images that it was given of wolves had snow in the background. So it wasn't actually identifying the wolves at all. It was identifying the snow. So then it thought, hey, there's snow. This is a wolf. And when you start to scale that up, it becomes a really, really big issue. So I just wanted to give a brief explanation of that. Also, there's a lot of bias that goes on with AI. What we put into it comes right back out of it. So all this data that we feed it, if it has biases built into the data, the AI is going to reproduce that bias. It does not have a conscious thought of understanding that this is bias. It is just taking the information it was fed. So there are a few real life examples that have happened. One was in 2018, Amazon found that its hiring tool was flagging a bunch of resumes and penalizing resumes because it had words like woman in there. So then Amazon scrapped that AI screening tool because it was all the information that they had been feeding it about hiring practices for 50 years of data or whatever. It was generally biased against women a little bit more. So the AI just learned that from the data that it was fed. Disability biases have also happened. So a study from the University of Washington found that ChatGPT consistently ranked resumes with disability-related credentials lower than identical resumes without them. So there was a flag happening just because somebody maybe said that they had a disability or they disclosed that. Language biases as well. These models, when they first were being trained, a lot of them were trained in English, and they were trained on English text and English books, all kinds of English websites, all these kind of things. So it has a preference generally for English. It prefers English at this point for the most part. This has become a problem for non-native speakers, but it also has kind of created a little bit of a bias related on that language as well. So this is real life, like we are seeing this a lot, and we're so early in this process that we don't even know how big of an effect this is really having for the most part when it comes to AI. But it is definitely something to keep an eye on when you're using AI, is do know that there can be biases that are in there that you're unaware of. Um, Another thing to know is AI can make things up. And not only can it make it up, but it can do it very, very confidently. I will tell you from experience with just experimenting, seeing things, what it can do. I have been gaslit by AI way more times than I'd like to admit, where it will argue with me that the answer it is telling me is 100% right, and it is not. It will just, it really wants to please the people with the information that it's looking at. So sometimes, even based on the way you ask a question, it might give you a response because it wants to please you, not necessarily that it wants to give you the correct answer. So it is really, really good sometimes to put those barriers or those boundaries in your messages that you ask is, hey, make sure that you research this, or I need you to find the most recent data on the internet, or I need you to look through these kind of forums or this kind of information. You can put those kind of parameters around it, but do know that AI will make things up. Even it will make up links. It will send you to a website that doesn't even exist. I've seen that so many times. It is also our responsibility to correct AI when it makes a mistake. So if it does give you the incorrect information, you should say, hey, this is the incorrect information so that it can find the accurate information. But there is a lot of things going on in the background that we don't know about with the training of these models that sometimes when you correct this information, it is actually correcting it on a broader scale than we realize. Okay. Another thing is be a smart user. Don't be a scared one. So, and verify the information, like I just kind of said, it makes stuff up. So, if it is very, very important information, verify the sources. You can ask AI like ChatGPT or any of these other ones, where did you get the information from? Can you cite your sources? Because sometimes I've seen this from experience too. I've asked it to cite a source and then it will immediately come back and say, sorry, that source actually doesn't exist. I made that up. Here's the real data. So it is really, really important to check that stuff, especially if it has, like, I would probably be one of the first ones to tell you you shouldn't really be getting medical advice from any kind of AI like this. But if you are, make sure you verify the facts. Also, legal and financial advice, make sure that you're verifying information. This can be something that can actually cause a lot of issues if you don't do that. Also, make sure that you're never sharing any kind of real personal information. So no passwords, no social security numbers, no medical details. If you're working ever, if anybody's working with people that they're supporting, be very, very hyper vigilant about HIPAA compliance, making sure that you're not putting information into AIs because that can go against HIPAA compliance. You can use local models if you are a bit of a nerd like me, where you can just have it running locally on your computer and it never accesses the internet. But do be aware of that, that is something that you want to make sure that you're watching out for. Like I said, watch out for biases. So anything that reflects unfair patterns, be aware when it's making decisions about you. So like sometimes you need to have it recheck certain questions. I will sometimes even ask it to play devil's advocate for me to give me a different perspective than the one that it did. Also know your rights. So if you are in the disability community and AI has discriminated against you, like for jobs or anything like that, you can report AI. This is what we should be doing right now is reporting these kind of issues. And there is a spot on the ADA.gov website that you can report these kind of issues. So please be reporting this kind of stuff so that we can make AI a lot more responsible and a lot more useful, especially for the disability community. One thing I wanted to throw in here, just because it is something lots and lots of people have concerns about, and it is probably, I would say, one of the biggest reasons why I see people resistance to AI and not wanting to use AI. I would also probably say that I share some of these concerns. I try to be a very responsible AI user, but there are some real life concerns when it comes to environmental considerations. Some of the stuff that I do see, though, I will say it can be misleading. Data, we're not really sure right now. It's very early in the processes. We haven't done a lot of really kind of independent verified research because a lot of the research we get is from the companies that are making the AI, which is not as good research as somebody who's going to be outside of that system. So it's still very, very fresh, and we do not know exactly the full environmental impacts. There are some real concerns about data centers. They are starting to pop up everywhere. One of the things that I do think, though, that people sometimes do conflate in this area is that they think data centers are only doing AI. Data centers are doing lots and lots of stuff, and AI is just a portion of it. It is starting to grow, but it is still just a small portion of that part of the process. So there is some legitimacy to the data that is coming out about AI and data centers, but it is not the whole thing that's going on with data centers. Scale is also an issue. So I do hear things sometimes where it's like, oh, 2 liters a bottle per like ChatGPT like thing. That's not really accurate. It's far, far, far less. But when you have millions of users doing that, it starts to scale up. So yes, there is a scale aspect that once you start having lots and lots of users doing this on a daily basis, it is starting to use more energy. But the bigger thing is companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta, all these companies are starting to put AI in everything. And that is really where a lot of this energy consumption is starting to come from. So who's responsible? The environmental cost, it is mostly driven by these industry decisions. So it's not just us as individual users. Yes, if we use it, people are going to just keep on making those kind of things because they have a user base. Um, so companies do have a responsibility here, but so do we as consumers. So we can be responsible consumers when it comes to AI and just know like the actual facts. So I did want to just kind of throw this in there that I do share a lot of the environmental concerns, but I do think that I'm kind of a little bit on the skepticism. I actually want to see the actual data sources before I start making claims one way or the other. So I would say, yeah, be skeptical of headlines that blame just individual users for this, but also be skeptical of the companies that sit there and say, oh, one query is just as much energy as like a light bulb running for like 30 seconds. Because I don't think either is necessarily true. We're probably somewhere in the middle. Okay. So let's get out of that realm. Let's go into some of the use cases and things that you might want to be able to use this for. All right, so some everyday uses that you can use AI for. And if you do use ChatGPT, I can tell you right now that any one of these would work in that system. Most of these AI models, you can do things like this, and it works really, really well. So here's some kind of things that you could ask. So you could ask for help. So maybe you are a little bit spicy brained and you need a little help making your emails sound really, really nice when you're sending a very complex email to like a landlord and you don't want to sound like you're really, really angry. So you can say, hey, can you write this email as a polite email? Typically, when I do something like this, is that I would just write it and then I would ask, hey, can you make this polite? I tend to use tools in Grammarly to do that because they have a lot of AI tools that just you can click it with the switch of a button, like make this sound polite, and it does it for me. But you can do this with most AI models. I would bring it back to make sure that I do say, again, don't put personal information into these kind of things because it will, in some cases, it might know your prompts or it might be taking tabs on those. You can also do things like breaking down into task. So, hey, I need to plan a birthday party. Can you give this to me in steps? Sometimes I might even say like, hey, can you do like, I need to plan this birthday party. Can you ask me like a few questions to help me plan this out? And the AI will ask me some more questions to be able to filter some of these things out. Um, I also would, so another area is learning. So you can like maybe something that you really want to learn about, like you don't understand how credit scores work. So hey, explain this to me like it's the first time I've ever heard about this and really break it down. Um, explain health insurance deductibles in simple language. So really complex things, you can get it to break down into very, very simple language. Recipes, this works really great too. You can say, hey, I have these ingredients. What can I make out of them? I need to make dinner. I don't know what to make. But you can also use this in things like self-advocacy, like help me write this letter. I just recently did this not too long ago with writing my congressman, is that I had AI help me write a very professional sounding letter to a congressman to help advocate for somebody. So you can do things like that for sure. Um, Another thing is like make sure you ask really good questions. So instead of saying like, "Hey, I need a good email," um, be very descriptive with it. Say, I need a polite email that's firm to my landlord requesting repair leaks. Um, get a little specific with that. Say like how many sentences you want it to be. Give it as much information and insight that you're willing to give it, because then it can give you a lot better of a response. It could also be like, I need step-by-step instructions cleaning my kitchens, broken down into tasks. I have a few people that I know that have ADHD that this has been very, very helpful for them because they struggle with being able to break things down into tasks themselves, but they can have a general idea of what they need to do. So they'll have the AI break it down. And like I said, you can give it like recipes, but instead of just saying, here's this, or I need to make dinner, help me out. You can say, I have ground beef and canned tomatoes and pasta and cheese. Are there any simple recipes that I can do? And you can also say, like, I don't really know how to cook, so break this down for me. So just be really, really good and mindful of those prompts. The more that you give the AI, the more you're going to get out of it. And yeah, if you don't like the first answer it gives you, ask it a follow-up question. It is okay to ask follow-up questions to the AI. You're not going to break it. Okay, so here's a few tools that, like, if you guys don't have this on your radar, definitely, I would say start to. So some things that can help with expanding independence in the vision realm. Be My Eyes is a pretty popular one. OpenAI with ChatGPT, they actually invested quite a bit into this company for a little while there to help expand it. So I have seen some good successes with that. Seeing AI is another one that can be used. Apple Live Text, and we see this a little bit more in a lot of different kind of cameras where it can recognize text on like a menu board or something like that, and then you can make it read it out loud for you. So that is something that is an AI tool that's out there that can easily be implemented. Hearing, so we have live transcriptions that can be done. You can do live transcriptions to real life in-person conversations as well nowadays. You can do live captions in Zoom and Teams and Meet. Pretty much everything has a really good live captioning system going on now, where I know back in the day, you had to have a very complex thing that you plugged in, and then you had to like plug in a bunch of devices into computers and then get the microphones all set up to be able to get it to these captions. And now it does it just like that. Um, Cognitive and executive functions. So there's a really cool tool called Goblin Tools, which I'm actually going to show you a little bit of. AI chatbots. So like just saying, hey, explain this to me simply, or like things with predictive text. Those are all different kind of AI tools that you can use. Motor and mobility. So we have voice controls now that are starting to pop up where you can control so many different things with your voice nowadays. There's AI enhanced switch access devices. So some of these devices now with even like the traditional switch buttons, when they're plugged into some of these devices like Apple iPads and things like that, they will start to learn over time how you're actually using the switch and it will start to adapt to those things. Eye tracking systems have gotten really, really good with this stuff as well. Okay. So, Goblin Tools is a really, 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 really cool tool that I wanted to show really, really fast. We're gonna go Goblin Tools. So this tool is actually designed for the neurodiverse community, but I think that a lot of people would actually find some of this stuff useful. It's broken into a very, and can everybody see my screen still okay? Cool. I got the thumbs up from David. I'm good. All right. So it's broken up into some very useful different ways that you can use this. I'm just going to show you a couple. So like the magic to do, you could go into the magic to do and we could say something simple like clean the house, right? And then I can say the spiciness level over here. So how much do I need to get this broken down? Do I need it just a little bit broken down or a lot broken down? I'm going to keep it in the middle, but I'm going to say, and this does have a voice activated control too, which is really nice to see. But I'm going to say, yeah, I need to clean the house. Well, I got that as a task list. Seems like just a regular task list manager, right? Everybody's like, this isn't really that special. Well, this is where it gets really magical. So I'm going to click this little breakdown item list. And once I click this, boom, it makes a whole full list of different task items with very concrete tasks for me to do. I can move these tasks around. I can go in and edit these tasks. I can delete these tasks, but say, okay, yeah, all these seem okay. But I might need a little bit more help with this wipe down counters and surfaces. So can you break that down for me a little more? And then it will even break that down further. So this is a really, really fast way for especially people in the neurodiverse community to be able to come up with a task list for themselves really, really quickly. And you can be a lot more specific in your first list item to be able to expand this a little bit easier. Um, Another way that you can use this is you can do something similar here with the compiler, where you can just brain dump. Hey, this is all the stuff that I'm working on. I need to get this figured out. I don't even know where to start. Can you turn this into a task list for me? You get all that information out here, and then you say turn into a task, and it'll boom, turn it into a task, like an actual task list that you can work with. It could be too that maybe you don't know how to read text for emotion. You're really, really lost and you need someone to come in and judge for you. You can paste text in here and it can read the emotion for you and give you the ability to be able to give a proper response. If you're bad at time estimation, you can say, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. About how long is this going to take? I have no idea. So it can do a lot of these really cool kind of things out there. It also has a chef too. So kind of what I was saying you could do with ChatGPT, you can do with this. You can say, here's the ingredients I have. Help me out. How can you like what can I cook? What could be something that I could use? So I would say like for as far as like some of the easier to use and kind of more useful tools that I've seen in the AI realm, this is definitely one of the ones that I have seen a lot of successes and a lot of people kind of like gravitate to and go, wow, this I can see this being something very useful for me. So just a few little things before we get into questions. I just wanted to say AI is not magic. There's no magic wand behind it. It's also not a villain. It's just a tool. I think of it just as much of like it's a tool, just like a hammer or a screwdriver. It is just a very, 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 very fancy, complex tool. And it can do some really, really amazing things that feel like magic, but it is no magician. Um, the more you understand it, the more useful it becomes. So part of the reason why I wanted to give you a really general overview of how this just works and what it is might make it a lot easier for you to either feel less scared, less intimidated to use it, but you'll also kind of understand a little bit more of what's going on in the background, that it is not really like this true intelligence. It is just really, really, really good, complicated computer system that's been fed lots and lots and lots and lots of data. Um, and yeah, you don't have to be a text expert to use this stuff. You just have to be curious. Just play around with it. Ask it questions. See, dip your toes in the water. If you see like an AI tool that you think might be useful, try it out. See if it is useful. If you have concerns about it, do some research and find out if it's the right tool for you. All right. So I'm going to open it up for questions. All questions are out welcome. So no question too big, no question too small. I am throwing the disclaimer out there though that I may or may not know the answer because I am not a full-on expert of like AI and every single aspect. But I will try my best to be able to answer them. I do know that we had quite a few things that I see, so I'm going to try to go through some of these chat questions first. But if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand or um, somehow try to signal us that you have a question you'd like to ask. But I'm going to first start out with, let's see. Design prompts decrease likelihood of hallucinations and biases. Yes. Okay. So that is a good question from Rachel about design prompting and being able, especially being able to have these tools create visuals for you. I see that being quite a big need, but making sure that it's doing things well. Um, I would say one of the ones that I would suggest to possibly look at if you haven't yet is Nano Banana, just because that is a really, really good design type one that Google has done a really, really good job of the design prompting. So being able to get minimal prompts and still getting a really good production out of it. Um, as far as the hallucinations or the biases, all I can really kind of say with that is just either one, verify that the sources are correct, or just ask the AI to verify those sources. Um, as far as let's see, do you know if people with IDD involved in co-design and testing of AI are just passive? So I do know some people and have been meeting more people that are using AI on a regular basis for their designing and to be able to do kind of promptings, getting some of the work done, especially in kind of the um, more of the tech community with a lot of coders. They're using AI in a lot of really, really cool ways. But I do actually, I was just work with a gentleman just the other day who uses AI. He is blind, so he uses it throughout his day on a regular basis. And he's actually been kind of using it in this kind of sense of being able to like with his support team being able to have better communications but being able to be more involved in his process as well. So hopefully that answers a little bit of your question. um yeah, I do think that there is a lot of opportunities for gaining independence, especially on the automation side as well, too. So I see lots of opportunities here. The Goblin tools is kind of, I feel like that has been one of the things that I feel is going a little bit in the right direction of actually making very useful tools to be able to do that with the prompts. So yeah, do you think AI could promote learned independence? I do believe that. What it looks like, though, I'm not 100% sure right now. Um, AI powered hearing aids. So Apple, the new AirPods, the Pro ones, those actually can function as hearing aids now. And they do have AI functions built into them. So if you're not aware of those, that is an option. There are also, I am seeing some other AI powered hearing aids that are starting to come out, but that's very, very early in the process. And most of the things that I'm kind of starting to see with that is really it has to do a lot more with the monitoring and the aspect of like the loudness gauge, like when it needs to be louder in certain environments and when it needs to be quieter in certain environments. When you have it pair like the Apple ones, one thing that's particularly great with that is that you can pair it with your device. So then you have also a lot of these different accessibility features that can fit in with your device as well. Goblin app. So it is free online. It is $2.99 if you're going to get it in the App Store, like on a mobile device. If you are like me, though, and you want to just bypass that, just pull it up on your browser on your phone, and you don't have to pay anything. Um, so just a little pro tip there. Let's see. Any other? Okay, I totally. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. All right. So I want to take a moment real quick to like questions. Anybody that has questions that wants to unmute their mic and actually ask some questions because I feel like I got through the majority of the chat ones. If I missed any, Angelina, just let me know. But anybody else have questions? Really, no question, big or small. Like you can ask me anything with this stuff. I love talking about it. And if nobody asks me a question, I'm going to make David ask me a question. Somebody help David out. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller?
I have a
Bueller?
question for you.
Yeah, Amy. What's going on, Amy?
Yeah, you're welcome, David. Um, I was going to ask, like, I know with a lot of the prompting type technology that if it's in the person's own voice, they accept it better. So
Hmm.
I was curious as to it, have you come across any AI that is kind of customizable in that way, or with
Ye
pictures of their own home or things like that?
yes. I'm going to try to answer this without giving an overly complicated answer. Um, so it really depends on what the use case is. Like Apple's doing some really cool things with their voice type stuff where you can start like being able to program your own voice into things. I've seen there's a program called 11 Labs that's been doing some AI voice type of things that can be also paired with other aspects to where you can have the AI paired together. I am seeing some AI that is starting to come out that I can see the potential of these things. To be honest, I would say that we probably aren't seeing as much of it. One, because not a lot of people are developing it yet. Two, when it starts to get into the vocal AI and recreation of people's voices, we're starting to see an influx and a problem with with different kind of cybersecurity issues with people doing deep fakes or being able to fake people's voices just by being able to basically like get that information off of someone's like voicemail response to where then they can mirror that person's voice. So I think because of those concerns, I'm not seeing a whole lot kind of coming out that I have personally seen super, super useful, except for some of the stuff that Apple is starting to do with like they have a voice thing now for people who might have different kind of disabilities where their voice is eventually going to go away. So you can record your voice now, and then you can kind of make an AI out of it so that you do get those responses, and you can give a response in your voice by using something like text to speech. So you put it in the text, and then the speech comes out as your voice. That's the best example. So hopefully that kind of answered what you were looking for, and um, if you're curious about those kind of things. I can definitely dig a lot more because I'm very curious about it as well.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions, concerns, birthdays, dedications, any kind of special events going on? No? Um, well, we are pretty much, I think, at that time. So if you know me and you have my information, feel free to ask me questions about this stuff because I can talk about it all day long. Hopefully, you got a little bit of something. I did not expect that I was going to be able to cover everything in this presentation, but I did want to try to give you guys a little bit of a general overview and for everybody to feel a little bit more comfortable about what's going on out there. So. Thank you very much, David and Angelina, as well in the mod series. And
Thank you, Chris.
thank you for all the claps, everybody. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for presenting for us today, and thank you all for being here. I did toss in earlier the links for the next mods. The next benefit one will be on April 8th, Brain Injury Association of Missouri. And then the next tech series one will be April 22nd on smart homes for safety, comfort, and control. So we will see you all next time. Thank you.